Welcome to Dodger Fan Weekly. I'm Adele. And I'm Anadel. And we love the Dodgers. And here's Howard. Hello, Howard.
Hi.
Okay, let's get right into this. We want to talk about the 40-man roster. Job security. We read something about the 40-man roster, and it said that they were making room for people. They had to move some people off to bring some people up. And it was a little confusing for me because we're expanding to 40 people on the roster, and then some people come up now and some come up later. Do you understand what the method of the madness is?
Well, they're not going to have 40 men on the active roster.
Okay.
So that might be part of the confusion. That there's a 40-man roster, and the players have to be on that 40-man roster in order to come up to the big club. And guys like Verdugo, for example, and Dixon and Wilmer Font were not on the 40-man roster at all, ever in their Dodger career. So they had to remove people by putting them on the 60-day DL or designating them for assignment in order to have space for those guys. So Dixon was pretty much of a surprise. Font was a little bit of a surprise as well.
It's up to 40 guys on the roster they can have.
They can have up to 40, but they won't.
Okay. Now, we're going to talk about position players because pitching is a whole different ballgame, and we'll do that later in the show. So we have some questions about people that really are possibly going to lose their job. We're looking at something like Verdugo versus Jock versus Granderson versus Ethier. What is that going to look like to you? What do you think?
You're talking about the playoff roster.
Yeah, I guess we are talking about the playoff roster at this point.
Yeah. Well, Granderson will be in there, almost certainly. They didn't trade for him to have him be replaced by a rookie like Verdugo. If Ethier hits during September as a pinch hitter, and if in whatever at bats they give him in left field, then he may make the roster as a pinch hitter as well. We'll see. There's only so much room for left-hand pinch hitters with Adrian Gonzalez and Ethier and Granderson, and obviously Bellinger will be starting at first base. Now, how many left-handed pinch hitters do you need? I'm not sure. If Ethier hits, then Agon might be the guy that they have to leave off. Jock Peterson has no chance at all.
Huh? What?
That would shock me. He would have to come up and just start looking like Babe Ruth in order to make the postseason.
Really? So Peterson, it's your prediction he's off the playoff roster, and
yeah.
Well, then the outfield, it's so crowded anyway, and so what about Chris Taylor then?
Who?
Chris Taylor.
Chris Taylor? Well, yeah, he's not going anywhere. The only question is whether he's going to play left, center, short, or second in various appearances. Yeah, he's going nowhere. If Verdugo really hits and looks like a major leaguer, then they can stick him in center and move Taylor back to left. So we'll just see what happens over the last month.
So a player that's been in the minor leagues that makes the 40-man roster can make a playoff roster even if they don't have to have a certain number of games?
Exactly.
Okay.
But they wouldn't put him on the roster if they weren't excelling at the major league level.
Okay. You mentioned Agon and Adrian Gonzalez, and he's a sentimental favorite, but do you think there's a chance that he wouldn't make the playoff roster, honestly?
You'd think he would make the playoff roster. I mean, it would be a really big story if he doesn't.
Yes, it would.
But he's not going to play first base, and if he did play first base, it would only be against right-handers, with Bellinger moving to left. And if he's not hitting, if he's not lifting the ball and hitting for power, then, it's really hard for me to say. I love Agon, but
right
now I don't know. I mean, if it's between him and Ethier, they'll just go with whichever guy is
hot then.
Better.
Now, who do you think, going into this stretch, Barnes is, a pretty consistent hitter. And Grandal is hit or miss, as they say. Right. So,
yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, they're both Grandal will catch against right-hand pitchers, and Barnes will catch against left-handed. It's going to be pretty close to a straight platoon in the playoffs, unless certain guys like Kershaw want certain catchers. Like in his example, it would be Grandal.
Okay.
It's possible that Kyle Farmer will make the team as the third catcher.
Interesting.
They'll probably have one more spot because they'll go with 12 pitchers, 4 starters, and 8 relievers, probably, as opposed to the usual 5 starters and 8 relievers. So they have an extra spot for a position player. Could be Farmer. I don't think it will be, but it could be.
So Howard, do you think chemistry has anything to do with the decisions they make for the final roster?
Well, yes, but I don't think there really are any chemistry issues. So really, they're going to try to pick the 25 best players.
Well, some Twitter people might see things a little differently. As an example, when Aegon came up, we started losing. When you came in, Bellinger got hurt. And, so things kind of went askew, and there was some chemistry that, the DNA changed.
And is it a coincidence that the team started losing when Jock Peterson went down?
Right. Well, all those guys will be in the clubhouse. So they may not be on the roster, but they're all going to be hanging out together. So I don't know that that's really too much of a consideration.
Okay, so now let's talk about pitching.
So, Howard, what's the matter with you?
Me?
You.
What's wrong with who?
What's up with you?
Is you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Well, thank you. How about you, Darvish?
Oh, that you.
Yes, that
Yeah.
you. Oh, you.
That's a good question.
Seriously, the question about you. You, Darvish. What do you think about his ability?
Oh, he's great.
So you think you is going to be there? We paid enough money for him. He has to be, whether he's good or not, I guess. Wood is only on the 10-day DL, is he not?
Well, yeah, but he's coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
He'll be on.
he should be fine.
In a 5-game playoff series, there are usually 3 pitchers. So who would those 3 starting pitchers be?
Well, I believe it'll be 4, not 3.
Okay.
And ideally, it will be, depending on Alex Wood's health and effectiveness, it'll be some order of Kershaw, Darvish, Wood, Hill.
Now, really, in terms of job security, the biggest auditioning area is for relief pitching.
Yes.
And I know we have a ton of relief pitchers ready to go. So, who do you think is going to make the roster for playoffs?
Well, that's to be determined. It's the left-hand relieving spots, plural, that is the biggest issue. You've got Luis Avilan, who I think is a lock. And then you've got the 2 Tonys, Tony Watson and Tony Cingrani, neither of whom I am particularly impressed with.
Okay.
And then the young guy, Paredes, who's just filthy. It's a small sample size, but nobody's touched him. He hasn't given up a hit, I don't believe, or even a walk in his career so far.
And he got his first game was a win.
If you had to make the decision today, I'd go with Avilan and Paredes. But you don't have to make the decision today, so we will see.
No.
I'd be surprised if they went with 3 lefties in the bullpen. So that's going to be a tough decision.
And also, do you think that Hyun-Jin Ryu and Kenta Maeda are auditioning for the bullpen?
They are, and both of them did pretty well in relief roles earlier in the season, but that's going to be tough as well. They might both not make it. One of them might. They might both miss out on the first round. And then you never know. There could be injuries, ineffectiveness, and they could assuming there is a second round, they could change the roster for the National League Championship Series.
Let's go, Dodgers! So I have some prediction questions and some opinion questions, actually. When we go to the playoffs, because we are at least going to go to the first round, who do you think we will meet, or who do you prefer that we meet in the first round?
I certainly don't want to see Arizona, so I'd like to see Milwaukee or Colorado. And I guess between those two, I would prefer Colorado. But
And-
I'll take whoever it is. I'll take
Right.
whoever it is.
Okay.
Nobody scares me.
Oh, good. Well, nobody scares us either. We think we're going all the way. Who do you predict that we are going to be playing in the World Series?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't usually predict out that far, but
Oh, okay.
Everybody's talking about Houston.
Well,
and,
yes.
and to me, Cleveland is the class of the American League.
But Houston picked up Verlander, so
I just think they're really good, and they had that experience last year. They came within a whisker of the World Championship, and if I had to predict, if you're asking me to predict, I think it's going to be Cleveland.
Howard, thank you so much for being on our show. Your wisdom is unmatched.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Thank you, Howard. And remember, glove conquers all.
congratulations to Erica. She correctly answered the question from our last episode.
And she wins the Breaking the Color Barrier bobblehead. Congratulations. And if you answer this week's question correctly, you can win Howard Cole's favorite player, a Yasiel Puig action figure. And the question is,
Who did Howard predict the Dodgers would face in the World Series? I'm Adele.
I'm Anadel.
Don't forget to tweet.
See you next time.